at the very beginning, I think that we were building every relationship possible. Be meaningful when you show up. Be impactful when you show up.
It is very powerful when you build very honest, true relationships. It's very, 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 very powerful. It's how I made my living. Things that have created a lot of money is just knowledge they've given me.
You know how people say always, it's not what you know, but it's who you know? Well, today we're going to talk about networking. And quick disclaimer, did you know that we're over 50 videos now?
What?
And the subscriber count is going up, baby. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you do so and like the video, share it with your friends, because we're all about helping business people not do the same mistakes that we did, right?
Well, that's true.
So networking, let's talk about what we are going to talk about. There's 5 topics today. The power of building meaningful relationships is number 1. Second one, identifying and attending the right events. Very crucial. Third one, effective communication and personal branding. Fourth one, online networking and social media strategies. And last but not least, nurturing your network over time. So We're in business now 6+ years, and just this one here, and it's taken a lot of networking. I promise you that.
I've been doing this stuff since I was 23, and kind of the people that continue to use me, no matter what the brand is behind the businesses, they just know they're going to get badass service, and it's going to be what it is.
That's right.
So you're going to get exactly what you order.
Yeah. So we'll get right into it. So the first one is the power of building meaningful relationships. So kind of like he said, man, you have to build and nurture relationships. And at the very beginning, I think that we were building every relationship possible, right? We would want to be on every job site, shaking hands, kissing babies, as they say, and make every time you show up somewhere, make it meaningful. People like to forget things that aren't, out of the norm, right? So what I mean by that is show up to a job site, do something different. Give them a pamphlet or brochure that maybe other people aren't doing, or maybe be dressed in a way that they're not going to forget you. Be meaningful when you show up. Be impactful when you show up. So building relationships, right, is critical, right? And as you go through your journey in your business entrepreneurship life, I would say that we are a little more strategic the longer and longer that we're in business. A lot of times these smaller guys that we may not try to establish the same bit of relationship as we do with the bigger players, wouldn't you say? Spending more time, I would say.
Well, I think relationships evolve over time for me.
Yeah.
Like when I first started when I was 23, right? I was calling on guys that are twice my age because I needed to go to the decision making. Now that I'm 37, right? A lot of those guys that were on those job sites were not decision makers are now in decision making ability.
That's a good point.
The position. So, point is, how I do it is I treat everybody equal. I try to listen to everybody's story. I am very strategic about it, right? The ultimate goal for me is to close as many deals as I can. And not every relationship is about closing deals, right? I joined at a 94X meeting that was just for entrepreneurs last week, right? Or the week before last. And it was just talking about owners and what they go through and all the ifs, ands, or buts and how do you approach certain situations, etc. Right? So that had nothing to do with me getting any business from that. It was just a relationship that I met with another guy. But long story short, it is very powerful when you build very honest, true relationships, right? It's very, 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 very powerful. It's how I made my living.
For sure.
To be honest with you.
Yeah,
it's
man.
how I built multiple companies. So be strategic about it. Not everybody's don't look at everybody as a dollar sign. A lot of people are not going to produce any dollars from you from a relationship you have, but they can bring, not a lot of times, some of my things that have created a lot of money is just knowledge they've given me.
Yeah. Kind of like that probably that 94 meeting or whatever you're talking about. You get around people in this particular meeting, he told me a little bit about it. He got around people that are like-minded, that they could be going through a scenario that you know the answer to, or vice versa, where, yeah, they may not monetarily be bringing you anything. They could be bringing you knowledge that could just save money to your bottom line.
Yeah, and it's just who do we as leaders, one thing we need to think about, and this is not about relationships, but it kind of is. As leaders, and you're the top tier person in your company, like you are, luckily for you and I, you and I have somebody to fall back on. If I have a question, I go to you, and you have a question, you go to me. But if you're an entrepreneur and you do not have any partners and you don't have that good support group, who do you go to? Comment below. I'd like to hear. It can be very stressful. You come home, your wife's there, your kids are there, your family's there, and everybody has all these questions for you. Who do you go to as a leader?
Yeah, that's a deep one, right?
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject. Let's go to number 2.
So number 2 is identifying the right events, which is very important because a lot of times you join events like we have something called ABC and blah, blah, every acronym on the earth around here that have different events that are associated with what we do. And the reality is that most of them have some kind of a fee, right, associated with them. So when it comes to events and making sure that you're at the right one when you're networking, there's usually a cost. So do some due diligence. Figure out, like, we're in the construction, big in the construction market, right? So we're not going to go to an event that has no construction general contractors in there. So we're going to be very strategic in what we go after. And then we're also going to be making sure that when we go there, that time is meaningful. We're going to have a whole display set up. We're going to tell everybody that we walk up to what we're about. We're going to also figure out whether or not that event has any return to it or not, because we don't want to keep spending $1,000 or $5,000 a year on an event if it doesn't bring us anything to the table.
Oh yeah, I remember starting my first business, and I would go to small little towns and large towns, and everybody wanted me to join the Chamber of Commerce. Next thing you know, I was paying like $10,000 a year with Chamber of Commerce annual dues, and I couldn't go to any of them because I was spread so thin. So, like, I'll give you a prime example, 94X. I know I keep on mentioning it. I enjoyed myself there, but I denied the gentleman that invited me there probably a whole year straight. And I actually went because it was a snowstorm and I had nothing else to do. You know what I mean? So I attended the event, and to be honest with you, I really enjoyed it. It was Christian-based, entrepreneurs, and it was something I usually wouldn't probably ever attend, and I went there and it was kind of giving me a different perspective. So I know Eric keeps on going back to what we do in our business, but it doesn't matter if it's business or personal. You only have so much time in a day, so pick and choose what events you want to attend. Make sure if it's not about a business, make sure it's about personal. At the end of the day, they both have one common thing and it's what you want to continue to push forward your agenda. Now, if that's getting help or advice and or selling a deal and or gaining more business, you be selective what events you attend because they do take time. Then they usually do take money, just like Eric said.
Yep. What's the third topic?
Effective communication and personal branding. I think this is one of the biggest because I'm going to get deep with you guys. I think AI is going to wipe out most jobs in the next 30, 40 years. So what is going to separate you? People that you and I follow they have done something that most people that we know have done something that we're working on right now is personally branding themselves.
Yeah. I mean,
right. And that brand could be their name, or that brand could be a product that you never know the person behind the name. Right.
Fair.
So, like Walmart, yeah, Walton's, right? But, Grant Cardone, everybody knows who Grant Cardone is. That he is the brand. His brand is 10X, right? So, personal branding to me, is one of the most important things that you can possibly do, right? When I was able to go from porta potties to dumpsters to fencing to OFS, they knew when I showed up to the meeting, my customers knew no matter what brand that was on my hat at the time and or on my sleeve, that the service level was going to be on par, it was going to be honest, and it was going to be fair, period. That's what they knew. That was a personal brand that I portrayed to them that I had to build up over a period of time. One last thing about personal branding. You don't build personal brands overnight. It takes time to build the brand. It takes time to build trust. If that's with your audience, or if that's with a customer, or if that's with your family, it takes time to build your rep on the street.
I mean, it just takes time to communicate what you're about, right? What your businesses are about. And you can communicate in a lot of different ways. Like, just for us personally, we communicate on social media. We communicate in person on the job sites. We communicate in these networking events. We try to hit them in every single direction possible when it comes to communicating to our customers about what we are, what we're about, right? And another kind of a thing that we've been working on here lately is kind of switching the thought process in communication of, we know we do things differently than a lot of other I wouldn't say but people that do things close to what we do. We're taking what we know people are not doing well, that we are doing well, and we're communicating that to our end customer, right? Which is a kind of a cool thought. So if you haven't thought about that, think about it in that way. So meaning, to give you an example, if you know your service time beats everybody else in the city, then you might want to say, hey, customer X on your ad, say, hey, are you having trouble getting your delivery in 2 hours when you already know that you internally can meet it? Take that thought process, switch it up, and basically, show your strength and communicate your strengths that you know other people have that are weaknesses socially, on social media, on Google, on whatever, and letting people know what you're about.
Well, think about some branding. I mean, when you think of Texas Roadhouse, you think it's going to be consistently good food. It's not going to be overpriced, and the rolls and butter are great, right? That's a restaurant. Think about yourself. Like when I think about how I personally brand myself, and it doesn't have to be something I'm selling. It could be personally branding myself to my banker. When I borrow a bunch of money, when times get tough, am I going to pay them back? That's my personal brand, right?
Yeah.
Personal brand to your customers, whatever company you're representing at that time. Because if you're successful in the entrepreneur world, more than likely, Eric and I have tried it how many times? You're going to diversify and think you're good at everything.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned something funny about Texas Roadhouse. The only time I get to go to Texas Roadhouse is like my birthday, because my wife's a pescatarian. So how many of you guys that are watching have significant others that are, weird? I don't know what you call it.
he's the biggest redneck in the world, and his
I
wife,
shoot
he married a
deer
pescatarian. I don't even know what that was until I met him.
I shoot deer. Just imagine this. I shoot deer. I shoot everything that flies, it dies, right? Anything on land, I shoot. I catch everything from... We went to Panama and caught all kinds of fish. We flew them home.
Hey. They're not here to hear about your pescatarian weird shit. They're here to hear about...
No, it just made me remind myself of the Texas Roadhouse. I never get to go there.
So let's talk about number 4. Online networker... No, sorry. Cut that out. Okay.
No, I think that'd be perfect. You're not communicating very well, as we're talking about here.
What am I doing?
You're just not communicating it right. Okay, let me help you.
Okay.
All right, so... Topic number 4 is online networking and social media strategies. So we had actually kind of briefly touched on some of this stuff just a minute ago, but online networking, in my opinion, is the future, right? We've done Google, we're doing social media, but in my opinion, anything online is the future. And you see all these people talking about it online all the time, and I'm just kind of seeing a shift. There used to be the yellow pages that we always kind of laugh about and talk about, and everything is going online. So first piece of advice I give you is, if you're not advertising online or have any kind of online presence, like a website or GMB or something to that effect, you better get going on that probably immediately. So
yeah, and you remember when I first started, it was like, you have to have the best website. You have to have SEO. Then it was like, you have to have Google AdWords. And then you got to, let's roll that back a little bit. My first company was called Aim to Please.
Because it was in the A's?
And it was in the A's because everybody was like, you got to be in the A's. You're at the very first top of the yellow book, okay? Then it switched to Google. Then it switched to SEO. Then we had MySpace and Facebook and all these other social media platforms. Point is, there's going to be additional platforms in the future. I get around my kids. There's platforms right now I'd never even heard of. I talk about Facebook, and they look at my dad. Facebook's outdated. Like, what is that? What? I'm like, what? Just not learning.
Yeah.
So point is, there's going to be changes over a period of time with AI and all the technology advancing at such a rapid pace. Just hold on. The kicker is, they all have one objective, is to get, and they do it different ways, is to get a message out there.
And get your attention.
And to get your attention, right?
Yeah.
They're selling something and or they're branding something.
Yep.
Right? And that's the goal, right? It's how they do it. They do it short form, long form, stagnant, like a website. What is it? Or is it all the above? Point is, things are going to change. Just don't be an old dust bag and never change, right? I see so many businesses that we've looked over in the past are like, well, why have my name in the phone book? Well, sir, I know you're 80. Nobody gets on the phone book anymore, right? They're going to get on Google. So online networking and social media strategies is a huge part of our Eric's and I's businesses. It's a huge part of chasing millions. You know, right now we're pushing our content on all the things. We're doing our personal brand. We have a name behind it, Chasing Millions, because that's what we're about. But that's our personal brand. We're not making any money doing this. We're doing this for the fun of it and to give you guys real life knowledge of things that we've been through and why we're doing them. And also to be humble enough to say, hey,
Here's where you screwed up.
we made some mistakes.
Yeah.
And we make those daily. You know, sometimes and most of the time they're, you know, like we look back, we're like, man, that was just stupid.
We hope they're not daily, but sometimes that just happens.
Oh, there's somebody on our team making some daily mistake because we probably gave them the wrong direction, didn't communicate clearly. I mean, there's thousands of reasons, but
Yeah.
let's go to the last one. You do all number 1 through 4, right? You're building meaningful relationships. You're identifying all these events to attend. Your effective communication. You're learning how to communicate effectively. You're joining all these social media groups, right? And platforms. But what's probably the most important thing that I do not very well is I develop all these relationships, but I get so dang busy with my business and family and just life in general, hobbies. Sometimes I forget to continue to nurture that relationship.
Yeah, man. And it probably is the most critical because you spent the time and the effort and likely the money to get that relationship off the ground, right? You may have taken them to eat, or you may have spent your time on their job site or whatever. But that's all fine and dandy. But if you lose them on your next job, on his next job, because you don't continue to follow up, you don't continue to give that guy a buzz or a, hey, happy Thanksgiving, or hey, happy Christmas, or whatever the method you want to do is it, if you don't do that, then there's going to be some chances that somebody else is going to spend their time, come in there and take that relationship away, right? The relationship could fizzle out. Somebody could be communicating better than you are, right? So it is uber critical to follow up with your customers, to establish very good, sound relationships with people where they know they can call you and you answer the phone, which is another very, very
And
critical
you don't
thing.
have to, every time you know, at first it was all about business, but now every time I got a lot of great customers, I just called to see how they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we developed a relationship.
Yep.
You know, and those are the relationships that last. The ones that you actually have put the time in, you have been vulnerable, you know what I mean, and let people know what's going on in your real life, and you've just been a real human being. Those are the ones that are like, they last. It's very tough for somebody to fire somebody they like and they're friends with.
Yeah, that's important. I'm glad you said that. You know, that's happened to me a lot. Is, you know, it may start out as just an individual that you've met, right, in a networking event or a job site,
Well,
or
you play
something.
golf with one all the time.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
course.
You know, so it's a good point, right? Is that, you know,
I think you quit playing because you keep on
because I
losing.
suck at golf. You know, I try really, really hard, guys. I really do. But no, like I said, that's a great point. And, you know, I've got lots of those in my life right now that have started as just a general conversation. And, you know, they're still friends to this day. And I think those are critical. The more amount of those you can get and retain, the better you're going to be. But like you said earlier, it is very difficult because life gets in the way, and, you know, people fizzle out for one reason or another. But the more solid foundational relationships that you can keep, the better it's going to be, right? Networking is key, man. Networking is key. So
If you have one thing to take away from this video, my advice is you can build relationships if you move into a different city, you're into a different business market, right? If you're a woman, if you're a man, you have to build them. You cannot do this alone. Build relationships. You have to have, if you're selling a service or product, you have to have somebody you're selling it to. There's an end user that needs it, right? That has to have it. You have to have a relationship with them. If you're selling over online and you're not going to have that personal relationship, you have to have a personal brand, right? The personal brand is something they trust or they've seen multiple times because it's on social media. So, guys, this is kind of a different topic for us, but this is something that we put a lot of time in for ourselves, and we take a lot of pride in it. Just be yourself. At the end of the day, that's something that you don't have to fake, and it's very easy to do. Just be yourself.
Yep. And if you're not likable, you better start getting likable, man. Thanks
If you're
for
not
watching.
likable, you're probably done.
Probably done. Thanks for watching.